This is a video I wanted to make a little bit. I mentioned something about it in the past video, maybe even twice. Right now we have an opportunity. If you're one of the ones who has means and has always wanted to, now is the time to buy your project car. It really is. Not only that is you'll be helping somebody else out who may be less fortunate than you, maybe lost their job and has to part with the car. It usually is going to go really well for both of you. That person may not get what they want out of the car, but you're going to be helping them out of a bad situation. So one, I think you're going to get a good deal. They're going to get helped. And you're going to get to start something you've always wanted to do. I looked online the other day and there were a couple cool Novas, a couple cool Camaros, and I had a buddy reach out and say, hey, you want to make a video on what you kind of look for. I mean, what are some things that I should be looking for? What's a couple things I should expect to see? What's a couple things that you think of when you go? Because I mean, everybody who goes out and looks for a car will look for something different. Usually what happens is you've been burned by something and you will not get burned by that again. One of the big things on that is tires. So check the tires. I mean, let's start that over here. Tires are a big thing, but let's say budget. I think budget is the number one thing you've got to really work with when you're buying a vehicle. You can go all in on your car, but just know, usually if it's an older car, something is going to be wrong with it. It is. You're going to have something. So this guy right here is a prime example of tires. They looked good. They had a little tread rot. But most cars that sit, like these type of cars do, get that. They are actually at least 11 years old. I've only had the car for, I think, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. Maybe 3, I don't know. Time flies when you're quarantined. Tires are something that you've got to factor in. So if I go all out on my car and the tires look good, they may not be good. Something mechanically is generally going to go wrong unless you're buying a really expensive car. Then chances are you may be lucky. You may not have to fix too much, but everything I've ever bought has had an issue. It has. So I would say budget. Let's just say we've got $15,000 that you think within the year you could have. You may only have like $10,000 cash, but your goal is $15,000. If you have $10,000 cash, I'd be looking for a car $8,000 range. I mean, if you find a really nice one, bump it up to 9. I mean, if it runs, drives, passes your test drive, bump it up to 9. Maybe go all 10 if you know that you're going to do another 5 down the road, or you're going to have money maybe next paycheck. Every paycheck you can do something. But honestly, if I've got $15,000 cash, I'm probably looking for a $10,000 to $12,000 car. Whatever I have, I want a little bit. One, so I can personalize it, make it mine, start to become proud of the vehicle. The other thing I want to do is start replacing some of these wear items. Both of these cars were, they ran, they drove. How well, depends on the day. So this guy's been through 2 starters. We're going to be doing a water pump. Battery, that's an easy way to eat $100+ right there. Tires, a really easy way to eat anywhere from $500 to $800 on tires. Just little odds and ends. I like to start replacing those so that I know they're good. I know they were okay. But again, this one, the starter, made it about 8 to 10 years, and that's it. And it's got to be replaced again. Some of that could be due to the issues of it starting poorly back when it was carbureted. The other ones, I know we cranked it pretty hard when we did the fuel injection priming because it had to have 3 cycles, and I don't think I let it cool down properly. Some of that's on me. Lifetime warranty on the starter, so not a big deal. I'll have a free replacement. Little odds and ends. You want to have a little bit of your budget left to, like I said, personalize it, whether that's a steering wheel, wheels and tires, some decals, license plate, whatever it is. You've got to have that. You also have to have the money to register the vehicle. I've seen a lot of people go out, they'll buy a vehicle, it will sit for months and months and months until they have the money to then pay the tax, title, and licensing. And what happens when it sits, seals dry up, now your vehicle that wasn't leaking is leaking out of the rear. So, the rear of the motor, the rear end, the transmission's now leaking. What I've done today here is I took the blue Suburban for a cruise. I didn't start this one up. I don't dare start that one up yet, but it has fired in the last couple of weeks, just long enough to fire it and get some fluids going. So what I've done is I've taken the blue one for a little ride. I just took it to the bottom of the street, around the block and back. This guy has not started up because the starter would not engage, or I would fire it up and let it idle for long enough to move some fluids. This one started in the last couple of weeks, long enough to move some fluids, and then it was done. All the junk that's in the bottom of that really makes me hesitant. The Fox body over there, it has, I think it went around the block is about it. So I get them out and run. That's about it. You just need to get out, go for a little cruise. But something you got to think about. You really need to think about, hey, what all do I need? Insurance is now going to go up because, I mean, yes, these are a lot cheaper than my newer vehicles, but this is something you gotta think about. Sometimes if you're buying a legit project, you're probably not going to register it for a little while, but you may want to have that set aside. You're probably not going to insure it, but you might have it insured. I know before this one was hitting the road and is registered, it has full coverage insurance. It's insured for more than it's worth. Well, it's insured for high book. I'm probably not going to be able to get that. So let's say it is worth more if it's blown up, lost, stolen, whatever. Something happens to it, it's worth more, because for me to go out and find one just like this probably isn't going to happen. So battery tender is another good little investment. I know this guy right here, there's a couple different ones. You've got battery tender. This one's a Schumacher. It goes around car to car to car. I pretty much run in a clockwise pattern. Nothing worse than wanting to go for a cruise and having your battery dead. So let's go ahead and talk about a few things I like to look for. Let's use the Camaro. One thing I have been burned on is tires. Mainly on the white Fox body behind you was the biggest one. This one, these tires that went around the block, are they good? Not really. Do I trust them to go hardcore? No, not really. But the white Mustang was unique. It was lowered, kind of like this one is. It's down a little bit. The outside looked fine. The inside was trash. I drove home on those tires because I couldn't see under there. One thing you may want to do, bring some race ramps. You've probably seen me use those in the past when I did the Mustang's oil change, so you can pull up on it and take a look under the carries, or slide under, or take a look. The other thing you can do, check the oil. If they've changed the oil and it looks fresh, hey, that's a bonus for you. Plus it shows they may have taken care of it, or at least cared enough to take care of it for you to come there. Pull the transmission stick. If it's an automatic, smell the fluid. If it smells burned, not a good sign. Not a good sign. You may have some transmission things happening down the road. If they'll let you, pull the spark plug. That's a good way to kind of see if they've been maintained as well. If they look white, if they look black. Check good, well-known spots that for rust. The blue Suburban or any of the white C10 trucks. Check the rocker panels, cab corners. I mean, on these, back at the back there. Check the trunk. Check common rust spots. You can Google almost any vehicle. If it's a popular like a Chevy, Ford, Dodge, guarantee if you Google 68 Camaro rust spots, they're going to be able to tell you where the most common spots are. So you can come by and do the knock test. The other thing you can do, and I thought I had a magnet there, but if you have just a little magnet and a kind of microfiber towel, you can actually put the magnet on the towel and stick it to the panel. If it does not stick, you probably got some Bondo there. Maybe that's not the end of the world if it's done right, but just know that down the road that may crack, that may come apart. And if it's fixed right, it should be okay, but most people do a patch panel. They want metal, they don't want Bondo. So it's one other thing you can do. Interior wise, there's little things that can really come back and bite you in the butt. Seat belts are expensive. Take a look at just some of the common parts. I had a 72 Challenger. I got that thing to the point where it was really ready to need a new motor. But Mopar parts are expensive. I don't know if you ever shop those. Mopar, Dodge Chrysler are expensive. You can get a pretty hopped up 350, and a really good transmission for about the price of a very bone stock 318 Dodge motor. So, not always, but just when I was looking back in the day, I was like, man, this thing seems like it's 2 or 3 times the price of a Ford or Chevy equivalent. So the Challenger, I got it to there. That was me, poor, looking into it. I believe the guy in the motor was good. It wasn't. the Mopar went down the road, this guy showed up. And ever since then, I mean, that was a cool car. I wasn't going to see myself going down the road. Chances of this, I could still see myself going down the road. So let's go inside and I'll show you a few things to kind of look for as you're cruising it. Take a peek inside. This is my car, but look at this. Parts in the car. It's another sign that there's something wrong with it that he planned to fix but maybe didn't or did fix. And just like when I bought that white Mustang, it had some brake pads in there, had some rotors, and, you know, I was like, okay, those are probably, so I asked them about it. Ask them about it. Go off their response. That's all you can really do. Little odds and ends can really add up. These window handles can add up. Sound systems are fairly cheap comparatively, so I'm never worried about a sound system. Little trim pieces, everything can kind of add up. If it'll run, check your gauges, make sure they work, because if the gauges aren't working, that person could have done some damage to the car. I bought them anyways because, you know, I figured, you know what, it runs pretty good. I've taken it for a cruise. Temperature gauge is a big one because it can be hot out. You can do a lot of damage if you run that motor up too hot. Volts gauge, not as big of a deal. I'm not too worried about that, hence the white truck didn't have it. Now it does. That's more for my peace of mind. I like to see if the alternator is doing its job, or when I turn the key that the battery's got some juice. So little odds and ends like that. Oil pressure is another big one. Know what you're going to look at and where the oil pressure should be. That's a very good indicator of some issues. Some motors will idle down at like 30 to 40, and some will go a little lower, some will be a little higher, some will be going down the road 50 to 60 PSI. You got to know what the motor is going to be doing. So when you talk to them and you're saying like, hey, what else can you tell me about your Camaro? Well, it's got a 350, it's got the Turbo 400, it's got the 12-bolt rear end, it's a true SS. Otherwise, it's missing some interior pieces, stuff like that. And if they say, hey, but I have them, you know, that's not a bad deal. Some people just get burned out on the project. They have to sell, you know, things like that, they happen. The other thing you want to look into is electrical. You can spend months on end chasing down electrical issues. Whereas if everything works right off the bat, you're going to be a lot happier, because I hate chasing down electrical. I like when I, you know, pull the lights on and these all light up, those light up. I see headlights out there. Got my foot on the brake. I see brake lights. I like when I do a turn signal and that works. Those are kind of things that electrical is a pain in the butt. But if things are working and something goes out, more than likely it could just be a bulb. They do have new kits, so if the wiring in the car is a total disaster, I'd almost save yourself the time, the hours, the energy, and get one of those painless kits and just know my vehicle's going to be down for a couple months while I look into this. So big thing to look for on these, just make sure it's clean. Lift if you can. Like this guy's bolted down, the carpet's down, but check the top, check the bottom. Look for these floorboards on almost any vehicle are a hot spot for rust. Look at the heater, see if that's even there. See what parts are there. Sometimes people strip everything but the alternator, the water pump. Other times they just unhook them. Just kind of know what you're going into. If someone says it's a true SS, know what to look for to verify that. Because if you're paying for a true SS, you're going to be paying more than if you were paying for a 6-cylinder car or a non-SS, maybe even just an RS, you know, and there's nothing wrong with an RS or an RS-SS. Know what you're going to see, and this applies to about anything. There are sometimes you'll look and somebody says, hey, this car's got the 427. Well, you know what? That Nova, let's cruise over there and let me show you what I'm talking about on that one. All right, so I'm going to move you back here. Did you see that 427 badge? 72 Nova never came with the big block. At least not from the factory. So when the guy was trying to sell me this car, he's telling me like, yeah, that's an original big block. I had done the research on this one and realized, no, the SS had a 350. I'm sure there was like a Yanko or something like that you could have optioned up. This is definitely not that. But it is a true SS car. That's a legit Muncie transmission in there. Just know what they came with, because a lot of the times people will take these and they'll be like, man, I'm going to swap that in there. So now this is a 396. Nova or whatever. This is a 454, so now it gets more money. Not the case. Sometimes it will be though. I mean, if it's got a 502 Chevy in it, those things are like $10,000 alone. Know what you're getting. Know what they were coming with, because a lot of times, original, numbers matching, all that kind of stuff adds value. A lot of the times, these people with the resto mods, that adds value too. Clapped out cars are still worth money. So I'm going to walk you over here. You may get cut out on this. This guy over here is a prime example of somebody who just was done with the vehicle. Just physically done with this. You guys have seen this before, but this vehicle had receipts for everything done to it. I know the transmission is a Turbo 400 and it's rebuilt. The motor, there's a receipt in there for a Chevy small block motor with all the manual and all the parts I'm going to need for it. Everything about a lot of this is brand new. The bags in the back. There's some weird things that you'll find. And that brings us to a point here that I'm going to bring you back in here. There's some weird things you will find. And by that I mean, when you look at receipts, and you can't find the parts, it really makes you wonder. The blue Suburban is a prime example of that. It had trailer brakes installed. I can't find the wiring or the trailer brake controller anywhere. Guy says, yeah, I never saw it when I got it either. But there's a lot of money spent on that. There's a lot of money spent on the sound system on that. There's a lot of money spent on the interior on this. This guy just had AutoZone style receipts for it because he did it himself. Did he do a good job? Apparently not. It doesn't run worth shit. So, but there just could be little things. Could be my fault it's not running good. So once you buy it, it's yours. You really can't go back to the person. I've done it once and said, hey man, this car doesn't even run. I got it home and it won't. He's like, hey, let me come check it out with you. He came down, checked it out with me, got it up to run. He's like, this is common. Sorry man, I should have fixed this. I just forgot it. Never did it again. Fixed it, good to go. So just when you're out there, know your budget. That's the biggest thing. That's where most people fall behind. They spend too much on their car and they can't ever get back out of it. They can't get the car on the road. So know your budget, know what you plan to spend a month. Hey, if I've got $15,000, I'm blowing it all in the car because I've got $200 set aside a month. Well, of that $200, are you factoring in insurance? There could go $20, $30 to $60, I guess. Just know what you got, know what you're going to do. Right now is a beautiful time to go pick up a project car. I mean, stay safe out there. And, I mean, you're going to get a deal, but just know that you're also helping someone else out who maybe upon harder times that has to sell their baby, and now it's going to be your baby. So, with that being said, give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. If there's something you want to add, throw it down below. And if you can, subscribe. I'm really trying to push to get, I want to say 5,000 by the end of the year, but we really got to pick up some momentum. So, with that, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one.